People like this George Santos, this wackadoodle, right? Who claims to be Jewish, the son of Holocaust. My father is a Holocaust survivor. I am a son of a Holocaust survivor. And I can tell you, I am grossed by this asshole. He didn't go to Baruch. He didn't get degrees from Harvard or didn't work at Goldman Sachs and other institutions of finance. He did none of that. All right. He's an uneducated, lying sack of shit. Nevertheless, he will still, in my opinion, end up with that congressional seat because people like Kevin McCarthy need that vote in order to become Speaker of the House. And that's all that piece of shit cares about. Confidence. They've put their morals on the line for Donald Trump, for whatever the reason may be. And I can give a couple of reasons why, right? Maybe they too are racist or sexist, misogynistic, xenophobic, homophobic, Islamophobic, anti-Semitic, or a combination or all of them combined. Interestingly enough, there's quite a few of them that you have here right now watching this live, discussion where they're just haters. And why they come into chats when they know that they're outnumbered, nobody knows. It doesn't matter to them. For some reason, they look at this guy like he's the superhero that Donald thinks that he actually is. And this is the problem. This is the problem with what we're all dealing with today. They create a divisiveness that this country has not seen in over 100+ years. And it's so dangerous, more than dangerous, it's stupid. And to people like this guy, Sean, that keeps jumping in, you're fucking stupid, dude. Wake up, read my book, Revenge, and understand exactly what Donald Trump, using the Justice Department, weaponizing the Justice Department against a critic, meaning myself, in order to destroy democracy, to create an autocracy. Look at the conversations that are now coming out between, for example, Don Jr. and Mark Meadows. Look at the conversation that was taking place between Lindsey Graham and Mark Meadows, where they're talking about replacing electors with fake electors to throw out the votes in states that Trump lost in so that he could retain power. Sean, you fucking idiot. Do you have any idea what country that does that? It's called Russia. And how many times have you heard me say the same thing? Vladimir Putin, or it was really Stalin who said it first, but Donald loved this one line. It doesn't matter who you vote for. All that matters is who's counting the vote. And this is the problem. He would then turn around, change the Constitution so that he would be permitted to be more than just 2 terms, and he would end up being your president for the duration of his life. And during that time, trying to figure out how the next Trump would end up taking over, making this country into what? A monarchy or a dictatorship or, an autocracy. This is absolutely insane. It's insane. And people like Sean, who, for some unknown reason, they stand behind Donald and they want something like this to happen. There's something seriously wrong with you, the same way there's something seriously wrong going on right now with your Führer. So open your eyes, right? Take the shit out of your eyes, little Visine, take the shit out of your ears. Stop watching Fox News and some of these other Newsmax, OAN, and channel surf. Channel surf to all the various different channels so that you could get a perspective of what's really going on there. And read. That's about the most important thing that you could do. Read. Because you really need to know the facts. Because promoting this misinformation, this disinformation, this malinformation will only cause damage to this country.
You notice, Cohen, that people who say, I do my own research, that when they say that, what they really mean is, I just listen to what Donald Trump tells me? Because to the person, Sean, out there, it's like, just read the source document. Like the things we've been talking about on today's podcast, we've just been going through his returns, and we've been showing you here, he's claimed that he lost $35 million in this year. And he claims he lost $32 million in this year. And this year, where he claims he made money, he claims he paid $700. And he's got
Ben, you
a
know what else we
Chinese
learned?
bank account. He's got a
Ben, you know what
Chinese
else we learned? That he lied once again to the American people. He wasn't under audit. All right. And it's something I wrote about in my first book, Disloyal, that when I asked him, I'm getting 1,000 phone calls from media. Just give me the letter that shows that we're under audit, and that'll shut everybody up. He's like, no, just tell them that we're under audit. They don't need to see my document. No, why not? He goes, Michael, let him go. Just tell them we're under audit. And so I clearly understood the writing on the wall. And the writing on the wall is he will ride that lie as far as he could ride it. And he wrote it all the way to the point that they made a determination to finally release the tax returns. You know, these tax returns originally started as a direct result of my testimony to the House Oversight Committee. And then the district attorney here in New York, when it was not Alvin Bragg, but Cyrus Vance Jr., they actually took the case all the way up to the Supreme Court for his tax returns. Let me tell you, folks, he's clearly not as rich as he purported to be. He took deductions that were improper. There's so much manipulation that went on here that if it was you or I, especially me, I mean, I've never in my life not filed a tax return. I've never in my life filed a late tax return. I mean, how about that? I have never owed the government $1, not at least to my knowledge. So what was my tax evasion? At worst, it was a tax omission. But they needed to slam the shit out of me because that order came from who? From Donald and straight up the line. They needed, in order to escape themselves, they needed a scapegoat, and I turned out to be that scapegoat.
Let's talk right now. You mentioned the Manhattan District Attorney, previously Cy Vance, now Alvin Bragg. They got the conviction of the Trump Organization on 17 felony counts. And we actually see in the various Trump litigation taking place across the country now in all the frivolous cases he files, federal judges are now citing the fact that the Trump Organization is a felon organization in terms of denying a lot of the relief they're requesting as one of the other grounds. They go, you're a felon, dude. You run a felon organization. But what's your prediction? I mean, we're here on the verge of New Year. So happy New Year's again to all the Midas Mighty out there. By the way, make sure you subscribe to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button now. But as we head into 2023, what is your prediction now with the wind at Alvin Bragg's back after getting this conviction, after bringing in a top prosecutor, Colangelo, into the mix? And now we see these returns publicly, which they have access to before. What do you think is going to happen there?
Yeah. Alvin Bragg is somewhat difficult to predict. I legitimately believed, and not because I am Nostradamus or I'm some form of a prognosticator, but because I was so knee-deep into it, working on a daily basis with the likes of Mark Pomerantz and Carrie Dunn, who are two of the best attorneys I've seen in a long, long time, right? Who truly knew what was going on. And it's a shame that there had to be an election, that Cyrus Vance decided not to run again. Alvin Bragg comes in 7 weeks later. 7 weeks. Impossible for him to have caught up in terms of the requisite knowledge that Pomerantz and Dunn had. Made a determination that they were not going to go after Donald Trump. And that's a big problem for him because I think politically it's problematic for him. But now it looks as if though there might be a revival out of the district attorney's office that deals with his taxes, that deal with, for example, the Stormy Daniel repayment to me that he took as a deduction, which is improper, it's illegal. And they may end up using that as the basis of an indictment. If it does not happen in the month of January, and for some unknown reason, I feel very positive that it is going to happen. But if it doesn't happen by the month of January, I don't believe that it's going to happen. And I have to be honest with you. I don't understand Alvin Bragg. I don't understand this group of prosecutors in the DA's office right now, simply because they have the goods. They know exactly what they can charge, what they can indict Donald Trump on. Now, is he concerned that, during the trial, which there certainly will be, the prosecution, that it may not turn out the way that they want as a conviction? Well, here's what I say to prosecutors. You guys have to learn your jobs. Your job is not to convict people. It's to prosecute them based upon violations of the law. That's your job. And if there's going to be a holdout in the jury because they're a Trump supporter like Sean, well, que sera, sera. That's the way it goes. There wasn't when they indicted the Trump organization on 17 counts. It was a very quick decision. They went out. They came back a bunch of hours later, and they convicted the Trump organization. They deliberated for what? A couple of hours at best. Same thing I believe will happen here, because the preponderance of the evidence that exists is so overwhelming that the only way Trump could possibly even try to wiggle out of it is to acknowledge that he's the dumbest asshole on the planet and he had no idea what was going on. And that still would be a problem when it comes to, for example, his triplex apartment. He certainly knows it's not 33,000 square feet. That he knows. So it's a lie. And then every time he used that personal financial statement to obtain a loan from whether it was Ladder Capital, the Weisselberg-related institution, or Deutsche Bank, or whomever, every time he used it in order to get a reduced insurance rate, that is a criminal act. And he needs to be held accountable for it, because too many people, including some in the comment section of the Midas Mighty, believe that Donald Trump is Teflon. They believe that there will never be accountability, that he's going to be held to the same way that you or I would. And that's a problem, because if justice is not equal across the board, and we all know that it's not, right? That these members of Congress, especially under the Trump administration, that they seem to have greater rights than you and I. That's the beginning to the end of a democracy. When you start creating two classes within a country, right? A class of everybody, and then a class of the protected elites who are actually in charge of running the country. It's a real problem. And we need to ensure Midas Mighty, my mea culpa movement, my folks on my YouTube, my folks on my TikTok, every single one of us have to get active. We have to get loud. We have to make sure that the same standards that are being applied to us must be applied to everybody else. And that includes Democrats too. There's a whole slew of members of Congress who they insider trade, and they become mega millionaires. Well, how could you not? The game is rigged towards you, and you're not held accountable. But you, me, any of your Midas Mighty folk, any one of us insider trade, you've seen what happens. And this is ridiculous. You're not supposed to go into government in order to get rich. You're supposed to go into government because you want to serve the people, not serve yourself like Donald did, or Jared Kushner, the greatest example. And it's one of the reasons why I understand Donald is not even speaking with Jared and Ivanka right now, because the only one out of that whole crew who really made out like a bandit is Jared. It's unbelievable. It's so unbelievable that we actually have to talk about it for a second. He picked up over $2 billion from the Saudis, despite the fact that the Saudi Investment Authority, who are some of the most financially astute people you will ever meet. I mean, these guys are all Western trained and so on. They really know the markets. They did not believe that Jared should be running any of their money because he's unfit, he's unqualified, and he doesn't have the requisite skill set that they look for on a standard basis. But somehow or another, Mohammed bin Salman, Deputy Crown Prince, told the Saudi Investment Authority, you give him this money. So we all need to sit back and say to ourselves, why? Why? Why did Mohammed bin Salman do that? Why was the very first phone call after the accusations that MBS killed or ordered the death of American journalist Jamal Khashoggi? Why was the very first call to Jared Kushner? Seems odd. And you know what? There's an old expression where there's smoke, there's fire. But this isn't even smoke, folks. This is a fucking inferno. And it's right in front of our nose. Why did they bail out 666 Fifth Avenue, a project that would have put the Kushner company into bankruptcy? Instead, they somehow managed to make some crazy deal that nobody in their right mind would do, because it was the worst deal from the very first day that Jared went after it. He overpaid by like close to $800 million, the worst deal in New York City history. They bail him out and they managed to somehow pull out over $200 million from that deal. Come on, enough is enough already.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.